Greetings and welcome to another episode of Wealth Building Wednesdays. I'm your host, Bomani Howze. I have with me a special guest, Deputy Director, Dr. Diamonte Walker of Pittsburgh's Urban Redevelopment Authority. How are you doing today?
Doing wonderfully. How are you, Bomani?
Doing well. Glad to have you on the show. It seems these days that you're one day we're at a groundbreaking and you're wearing this hard hat to announce the ceremonial groundbreaking of the F&B Financial Center. And next day you're wearing another hard hat. It seems there's a lot of activity going on in the Pittsburgh region.
Lots of activity. It's all great. I mean, I think you're talking about my recent walkthrough with Tina Daniels.
Yes.
In Larmer. That was a few weeks after the F&B Tower groundbreaking. So both, I think, really capture and crystallize macroeconomic development, but making sure that our small business owners are, keeping pace with that and getting those and access to those opportunities.
Right. So before we get into all of the great projects that you're doing, to help these public-private partnerships release as much power and coordinate as many resources as possible, I just wanted to go back. I understand that there's a rumor that you are from Pittsburgh's Hill District.
I am from Pittsburgh's Hill District, born and raised, very, very proud Hill District. I always tell folks that my family landed here in the 1890s in search of opportunity for the Industrial Revolution, and we've been here ever since. And so I was born and raised in the Hill District. I'm very, very proud of, those strong Hill District roots.
Good, great. Glad to be on the scene with you during this very powerful time that we're in to help revitalize not only the city as a region, the city and region, but getting down to some of those neighborhoods that you and I grew up in, like the Hill District, that had long decades of disinvestment as a result of failed urban renewal plans. But glad to see that you have risen into the ranks. Let's jump into some conversations about your role at the URA. Tell us about your day-to-day as Deputy Director of the Urban Redevelopment Authority.
So excellent question. When I think about the day-to-day at the URA, no 2 days are alike, right? Like one day I have on a hard hat, another day I've got on a business suit. So it's and sometimes I do them both at the same time. So my day-to-day is really focused on how do we repatriate investment to neighborhoods like the Hill District. Urban renewal policies really hurt the Hill District, really hurt East Liberty, Larmer, Homewood. And so how do we, as the leaders of today, rethink what it means to invest in urban neighborhoods and to spur neighborhood revitalization? And how do you center community voices and put community practitioners in position to really drive that reinvestment? And so that's really what I focus on from day to day, working in coordination with our elected officials, our development partners, community leaders, community development organizations, as well as, small minority business owners, as well as large scale minority business owners, and creating the kind of public-private partnerships that make the difference so that, when they look at, the history record, we should, they'll say that we got it right. Like the intentionality will be there. It will not be perfect. It will not be pristine, but this is a messy business. This is a knife fight kind of business, right? Like you don't come out of this work unscathed. And if you do, then what were you really doing? Right. So that's a little bit of what my day-to-day looks like. A lot of meetings, a lot of engagement. And it really intersects at my personal passion to help people.
Right. So speaking of helping people, you have a program called the Catapult program, which is an entrepreneur incubator program, I understand. Can you talk to us about that?
Sure. So Catapult, the Catapult program is a core program of Catapult Pittsburgh, which is run by Tammy Thompson. So if you don't know the name Tammy Thompson, you need to know that name. And I would even encourage you to maybe have her on one of these sessions because she's really, really powerful. And what Tammy did was a few years ago approached me and said that, she felt that it was time to really start focusing on minority women-owned businesses in particular and how to really support them and help them, but beyond the coaching and sort of 6-week, 12-week type of intermittent programming. And what she wanted to do is she wanted to do demonstration-based programming. So she helped to pioneer the very first sort of retail incubator here in the city of Pittsburgh, known as the Gallery on Penn. And so that is the inaugural site where we worked together by way of funding from the URA, the leadership of what was Circles Greater Pittsburgh at the time and is now Catapult Pittsburgh, really to work to identify an enclave of small Black-owned businesses that we could wrap around critical supports, funding, access to technical assistance, and most importantly, actual space to demonstrate how to run a retail operation. And so the Gallery on Penn has been in business for about 4 years now, and I am excited to report that we are opening up the second site right in the Hill District at the Center Helpman Plaza. It will be called the Gallery on Center, and it will provide Hill District-based businesses with the opportunity to build the technical skills and the retail presence needed to survive on an economic development corridor such as Center Avenue. So very excited about that work that Tammy has been spearheading. And, again, this is a new concept. Like, folks have not really been doing the retail demonstration-based type of activity. And so it's such an innovative and cutting edge way to support minority and Black-owned businesses that PNC awarded $1 million in grant funding so that we can continue to scale and grow that program across the city of Pittsburgh.
Excellent, excellent. Speaking of awards coming from banks, so shout out to PNC for that investment into the neighborhood for small business owners. Also, First National Bank has deployed $2 million for small business lines of credit, and it's housed at the URA. Can you talk a bit about how important access to capital is for small businesses?
It is the lifeblood of a small business. If you can't access capital, you can't scale and grow and meet your customers' needs. And so I have to say that, F&B is such a stalwart partner in the Hill District. They were investing in the Hill District long before the tower, right? And so this tower is just an escalation of that commitment to the Hill District. And so I have found it to be nothing short of, amazing, working with not only F&B, but also working with a development partner around creative strategies to reinvest in the Hill District. Again, I said this before, it's not a perfect practice, and we're working this out with fear and trembling, but, those folks have been committed to coming back around the table each and every time, making sure that when we walk away from that table, the Hill District has gotten a little bit more, and that we're doing things and recreating the Hill District in its own image. And so that fund that they capitalize will allow the URA to do something the URA is not currently poised to do, which is offer lines of credit. That is very different than a loan. A line of credit keeps the business in the game from project to project to project, allowing them to meet payroll and to invest in marketing and back office systems that we know sometimes impede our businesses from being able to build that capacity. So I want to thank F&B for that investment. That is not something that the URA would have been able to do in and by itself with its own resources. So that $2 million is going to make a real difference on the redevelopment of the Lower Hill, including Black businesses and Hill-based businesses in that opportunity.
So here again, these are examples of public-private partnerships. And so if I'm a small business owner and I'm looking to go after some contracts and I need to beef up my capital, how do I contact the URA or go about the process to access these monies?
So the best way to start is by going to ura.org, and you'll see a link right on the landing page that says access to capital, small business lending, MWBE support, something like that. And, there are multiple ways to get to the same information on the website. And so you will meet with an intake coordinator who will look at your business and try to determine what your business needs and the best avenue. Is it a line of credit? Is it the microloan program? What are you really eligible for? And then they start to begin the application underwriting process. So something very unique about the URA and the way that we do access to capital, you're not only accessing capital, right? Like money in and of itself does not transform a business. You need other technical supports in place. And so we do this based on relationship. Our borrowers are in relationship with the URA, and we care about the holistic needs of that business, not just do you have enough money to meet payroll, but are you as a business owner taking care of yourself? Are you meeting the right folks? Do you have strong workforce development? Those kinds of things all have to come into play in order to really make good on accessing capital.
So speaking of making good on capital, just announcement that came out on, I believe, Friday. You mentioned the development partners. I'm vice president of development for the Buccini Pollin group, and at closing, we promised to deliver on the LRTA funds, the local economic revitalization tax abatement. And so these monies are now sitting at the URA. The first installment of nearly $7.2 million is sitting now at the Urban Redevelopment Authority. Can you talk about how important it is that folks start accessing, figuring out how to access that money to further advance their own business to participate in these projects?
Yes. So thank you for bringing up the LRTA, because I think it's a very important topic to discuss. We see it all over the news, all over social media. And so, one thing that we know about the Hill District, because of the disinvestment over 4+ decades, it doesn't have a very strong tax base, right? The tax base that it has, they've been longstanding Hill District residents, have been holding this neighborhood up on their shoulders, but displacement and other disruptive factors in the neighborhood have limited the Hill District from reaching its full economic potential. That is the issue that we're trying to address. So the LRTA, and what you unpack that acronym, so thank you for doing that, because sometimes we throw around these acronyms, we got to talk about what they mean. And so what that allows for is it allows us to almost, model a tax base in the Hill District. What if we had that kind of tax base there? What could those dollars be used to do? And so the LRTA is made possible by a couple of different ways. So first, it's the three taxing bodies agreeing to forego tax capture for a period of time to allow those dollars to be reinvested in the neighborhood. 50% of those dollars will remain on site for the redevelopment of the Lower Hill. The other 50% will be diverted to a neighborhood control, to a community controlled advisory board that will decide how those dollars are deployed. So this is the brainchild of Councilman Daniel Lavelle, who is, from what I've seen, has always stood up for his community, making sure that as the Lower Hill is redeveloped, the Middle Hill is also redeveloped. So that's great, right? Like, so on its face, the LRTA sounds wonderful. Well, here's the thing. That money kind of trickles in over that 20-year period, a little bit at a time. There's really no way for the Hill District to build a critical mass and to have real impact with those dollars when you're getting small waves of money intermittently year after year. So for him, it was important that the Hill District be able to access those dollars up front, right. A sizable chunk of that money up front. And I think that's the thing that we really got to stress here is that, so how do you get that money up front? That means somebody has to borrow money and has to what we call do upfront capitalization. That means give us money up front to start addressing huge needs and huge issues within the community that need to be addressed and could be addressed if we had a stronger tax base. And let me tell you this, and I think they should be addressed whether we have a strong tax base or not. Like, we can have that conversation a separate day, but I will tell you so that those dollars are going to go towards things like workforce development initiatives, job placement programs, mortgage assistance subsidies, rent assistance subsidies, things that keep folks in their home and continuing to participate in the revitalization of their neighborhoods, along with development investments. So we're going to see skyscrapers go up in the Lower Hill. Now, a skyscraper is not necessarily appropriate in the Middle Hill context, but we want to see the new buildings, erected in our neighborhood. We want to see preservation of existing structures like Tom's Barbershop in our neighborhood. So these LRTA dollars, having that access to capital up front, where BPG and, PAR, the development team, took out a loan to give us those dollars up front, to deploy into the neighborhood right now. And I'm not going to say like that we need to have a cheerleading squad about that, around that, because these are the right things these are the things that need to be done. What I will say is you'll be hard pressed to find it happening in another neighborhood around the country on this scale. And so we're starting, it's a start. There's a lot more work to do. You know better than anybody that I am putting a lot of pressure on the development team to continue to do right by the neighborhood and to continue to respond and be proactive about anticipating a neighborhood need. But those local HEAL economic redevelopment, local economic revitalization tax assistance will go a long way to catalyze that work and give us a strong start out the gate.
Right. And so, yeah, so we've run through at least 3 different sources of capital that are being deployed into the neighborhood, to the Hill District. It's a model. I haven't seen much of it duplicated around the country, and I'm hoping that people will look back at Pittsburgh and the Lower Hill development and look at how we've been able to funnel resources from the Lower Hill development into the Middle and Upper Hill. And so I want to give a big shout out to the principals at Buccini Pollin Group and Clay Cove Capital and the partners at First National Bank and PAR, the Pittsburgh Penguins, for pushing forward and making sure that we came forth on this promise. And so, listen, I want to thank you for joining us today.
Can I say one more thing?
Absolutely, please.
If I could, just because I know folks don't get a chance to see like behind the scenes, right? Like they're like this work can get very, very ugly. There can be a lot of tension, but I will say that I think that everybody wants what's in the best interest of the Hill District. That may look a little different depending on where you sit and what your role is. But you know what, I've been very encouraged, not by the arguments or by the right. tension that happens at that table, but by the ongoing commitment to continue to work this out. And I've worked with a lot of developers, and I have to tell you that the Buccini Pollin Group has really been a solid partner to work with. They have listened and they have responded. And I think that, you as a team, you're a part of the team, understands that more has to be done. But it has been really encouraging to see a developer committed to doing the right thing by the Hill District and continuing to address those concerns and those needs. So I want to thank you for your leadership on the team, for helping to make that possible, along with Chris and Dr. Ellis. It's really been wonderful to work with you and that team.
Well, and likewise, thank you for all of your leadership, stepping in day after day, week after week, to make sure that we have this concerted effort, that we're working together hand in hand. Public-private partnerships are not easy, as you said, but we make it happen in the best interests of the neighborhood and the city and the region. I want to thank you for your time. I know you're very busy. I appreciate you coming on to share with us all of the great things that you're doing as Deputy Director at Pittsburgh's Urban Redevelopment Authority. And I know we're going to be some years out cutting ribbons in the Lower Hill, project after project, as a result of your leadership. And so I want to thank you
also
again.
Also be in the Middle Hill cutting ribbons. So
that's right. So Middle, Upper Hill, we're doing some big things across not only the Hill District, but also you're doing great things throughout the city of Pittsburgh. And so again, I want to thank you for joining us for Wealth Building Wednesdays. And this concludes our episode of talking about the importance of coordination of resources and cooperation in public-private partnerships. Wonderful. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.